Welcome back, dear viewers, and you are still watching Cairo Local Time. And in this edition of the program, we will talk about October War, or the 10th of Ramadan War, and as it remains a great day in our military and national history. But today we are going to focus on the way the war was portrayed in Egyptian cinema and drama, and we are joined today by Mr. Osama Fatim. He is cinema critic. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you, ma'am.
So, Mr. Osama, let's first take a general question about your opinion on the way October War or the 10th of Ramadan War was portrayed in Egyptian cinema. And in your opinion, what is the most influential film?
Well, the 10th of Ramadan, which happened to be in the same day as the 6th of October of 1973, as you know, our dear viewers of course know, is having to fast per being a good Muslim and practicing Ramadan. That day was not chosen because, or that date was not chosen because Ramadan was there, but no, it was chosen according to scientific...
Military causes, yeah.
Yes, to the date of the war, to a scientific, well-made scientific calculations and military calculations where the tide was supposed to be high in order to help our soldiers to cross the canal and so on. And at that point there was a fatwa that, hey guys, do not fast if you don't want to. But some of our martyrs decided, no, we will fast, and the first thing that they ate in their lives, short lives, long lives, were the bullets of the enemy, Israel. So they died fasting, getting their martyrhood, and they are still our heroes.
Yes.
The cinema has, because of course it was in the 1973 and President Sadat was the ruler, the president at that point, he promoted, pushed towards making movies about the war. And that's why most of our movie wars were done in the 70s, some of them as early as 1974. L'Omr Lahza, for example, it was in 1978, but, or the moment, it could be translated as life in, in a moment, or the whole...
Life is a moment.
Life in a moment, and what happened was some of them in 1974, one of them, Samt, I think, was in 1974.
Yes, 1974 by Magid Tobia.
Yeah, Magid Tobia wrote it, and he was...
directed by Muhammad Raj.
Yes, and then there is one in, who was made on the 6th of October of 1974.
The Great Loyalty?
That's حتى آخر عمر, or till the last day of life. And many
films.
Yes, there is mainly about a dozen movies that covered the war. And what happened was that there's a lot of them in putting the social, the political, the military all in one movie. They cost a lot of money, a lot of people to produce that, and they remained as a part of the national history of cinema. The problem with wars about, with movies about war is that our political / military / history in the movies were all condensed in between 1967 till 1973, 7 years.
Yes, they portrayed the war of attrition, and then
and the defeat of 67 and the victory of 1973, or the war of 1973, depending on how you look at it. Once so they're all linked together, and so that mainly they wanted to show the same people who were beaten or defeated in 1967 endured the attrition war between 1968 and 1970 and continued until we crossed in 1973. Not a lot of movies went all through after the war itself. Only one movie was produced after that with the same caliber of
maybe film War of Heroism, The Wall of Heroism.
yeah, The Wall of Heroism.
البطولات, yeah.
So, yeah, that was done in 1999, and it was released to the public in 2014. And that movie has a story.
Yes.
That basically after approving, it was produced by the National Television and Dr. Adel Hosni Production Company, and it was approved by the highest level of political system at that point. And then after the movie was made, the advisors told Mubarak, the late president of Egypt, that, oh, it shows no role of you in the war.
Yes.
It shows the air defense system as the real hero and its heroes and its people, which is, of course, ridiculous. But our late dictator was not a smart guy, I must say, he had a big ego and refused that the Field Marshal Muhammad Ali Fahmy to be the hero of that movie.
Yeah.
Or the star of that movie was portrayed by Mahmoud Yassin. So he said, after the movie was produced and completely done, and he said, no, don't put it into a theater,
But
don't
I think
put
it
it
was
on
released
TV.
afterwards.
It was released after he was out of power. 2014, he was out of power in 2011 after the revolution. And he was, then 3 years later, it was shown in the Cairo, first screening was in Cairo Festival of
So
2014.
after 15 years.
Nearly, yes, about so.
Was it good, the film?
I loved it, of course, and it was on the same caliber of that of these movies. The production was huge. There was a lot of money invested, a lot of people involved, and showed again the social part of social problems that were there in Egypt during that time of intense years.
It's again the war of attrition, 1967.
Attrition, exactly, until the
1973.
beginning of 1973, yes. So they made the air defense system. A lot of people died in it. It was a heroism, it was a real heroism to build it. And hey, showed our soldiers, which are cousins, friends, fathers, who contributed in that war, who participated in that war. And it was a real good movie in comparison, yes.
So, sir, if we talk about the soundtracks of these films that portray the war, to what extent it participates in the success of any film, as we have Bariq Hamdi in Al-Umr Lahza and Abna Samt. So how do you see the soundtracks of these films?
Well, actually, that's a new point of looking at these movies.
Yes.
Bariq Hamdi was a genius, okay? He had the theory that you do not just put a soundtrack for that situation, you do not put a soundtrack for this situation, or he said he basically composed music for each personality. And some other times he composed music for each situation. So mixing both of them with that theory in mind, mixing, so when there is the sounds of tankers and fighting, he stops the music. When there's a personality that involves fear or brings fear, then hey, you put a certain sort of music. When there's some sort of joy, then hey, you put that kind of music. So I think it was among the brilliant parts. He did 2 movies, you may just mention them,
yes.
And they are both, these were, in my personal opinion, it's a beautiful contribution to the war, contribution to the movie, and not a reason of success, of course, but it's certainly combined, it's part of the factors that led that these movies are still in our memory, still you would listen to that music whenever you see that movie, then hey, it will come to mind right away, that movie. So it's it's a beautiful part, and a good point on mentioning that. Yes, it's a
Also,
new way of looking at it.
Yes. Also, if we talk about the soundtrack, we can also talk about the patriotic songs that were involved in these films, and at that time in general, and the role in raising the spirits of soldiers and Egyptians in general.
You see, I'll return back to Baligh Hamdi and Abdul Halim Hafiz. Yes,
he was the one who
they stayed in. Yes, they stayed in the studios. Once the war started, they never left. They were producing. Words were written. Kamal al-Tawil, I think. Music was written, and then the song was sang, all in between the beginning of the war and the end of it, the end of the 18 days, and it kept going on. They just didn't leave their places. They felt like that they are soldiers on the front lines as well, by doing all these songs quickly and fast in order to reach the people right away.
Yes.
And it was again, that's another good point here, that these guys were heroes each in our own. Each in their own place.
Yes.
And I'll have to say an anecdote here, that when the war started on the 6th of October of 1973, the thefts stopped in Egypt. The people the pickpocketed decided, hey, no, we are not going to do any bad doings until the war ends up. So
they have hard spirit.
Yes.
They want to protect their country.
That is correct.
Yes.
So each contributed in their own place.
Mr. Osama, if we talk about one of the important films, which is The Bullet Is Still in My Pocket, one of Egyptian actor Hussein Fahmy said once that the movie was captured on the real Bar-Lev line at the Suez Canal at that time. So how do you see the production of these films at that time?
Of this specific movie, it was,
yes.
it's a story written by Ihsan Abdul Quddus.
Yes.
And he basically, the movie was shot in the Bar-Lev things before destroying it or demolishing it for peace purposes after that, and getting all the effects of the war out of the way. So yes, it was shot there. The movie was shot there, and the story itself, again, from attrition to the war, and at the same time a parallel line of the social problems that existed, and the corruption that showed that led eventually to the defeat of 1967. That at least that's how the movie portrayed it, and how it after that portraying, or the victory that eventually all the internal enemies, as they called them at that point, were eventually taken out of the picture. Yes. So it's one of the, again, everybody saw that movie more than one time.
Also, we have the film The Great Loyalty, or Al-Wafa Al-Azim, that was produced also in 1974, and tells the love story of the actor and the actress. If we talk about love stories, also they were involved in these films. It was not only portraying the war, but it was also portraying the social life of people, how they used to live at that time, love stories. So what's your take on The Great Loyalty, or Al-Wafa Al-Azim?
Well, that's a good movie as well. That's, again, one of the movies that we have studied, if you want, during the time that we have seen it here and there many times. The concept was always putting the soldier life, because those who made the victory, the decision, of course, was a courageous one. All the factors the political factors seemed to show that we were going to lose. And did not happen. The decision was courageous, but those who accomplished the victory were the poor, the oppressed, the peasants of Egypt, who just happened to be in the army at that point by a political decision, compulsory military service, serving their country, and they did well. They showed heroism, they showed self-sacrifice, they offered the ultimate sacrifice with no problem, where they didn't have a problem giving their lives to Egypt and their country, their patriot, their families, their friends. So that's another movie, الوفاء العظيم,
Yes.
yeah, is showing that a parallel line always. It has it deals with the soldiers after the war, with somebody who became handicapped, paralyzed after the war, and it's still, hey, they are part of our society, part of our heroes, and we still love them, no matter what is the case, how their physical condition look like.
Unfortunately, Egypt is still in a state of war against terrorism, and this was portrayed in Al-Ikhtiyar first part and Ikhtiyar second part. And still we can see that Egyptians are so interested in knowing more about their country. In your opinion, why do this kind of drama attracts audience?
First, because this kind of a drama where there is political and military and intelligence and internal information. First, if you are going to just do reading about these things, first of all, the information are not always available easily. So putting it in a drama or in a series or in episodes or a soap opera, that intensifies and condenses all the necessary information in one place. So that's one thing to know about. The second is that some people were not aware, some of those who are not interested in reading about politics in general, which this is part of our society as well. Some people are not interested at all. So when they see it in a dramatic way, they will always get their attention. They might raise their curiosity and make some reading about it. And of course, the whole magic of working for and against the security apparatus, getting information, how to show how they get the information, and then in the Ikhtiyar in specific, they made parallels with our real life and taking real shots and showing the real heroes of the police and those fighting terrorism. In the same, on a parallel line to show what really happened versus the drama thing, and showing our police officers as in a dramatic way to show them as real people, not just somebody who died in a job.
So also, if we talk about this movie, we can't ignore the role of Yusuf Sebai as a writer at that time, as he wrote two important films, Al-Umr Lahza and Hatta Akhir Al-Umr. So how do you describe Yusuf Sebai and his talent as a writer?
Well, Yusuf Sebai had a background of an officer. He was not part of the Free Officers of 1952, but he was the head of the military museums at that point. Then he had the talent or the curiosity about writing. He had already some published novels before the 1952 revolution. So once this happened, he became part of the cultural apparatus of Nasser's time and Sadat's time. And he had a political roles as well. So, and journalistic roles. So basically he was a man with many hats, if you want. So once once the war happened, he wrote these two movies, Hatta Akhir Al-Umr, sorry, Al-Umr Lahza and Hatta Akhir Al-Umr. Yes. He shows the military part that he lived himself, even though he did not become an officer per se from during the war. He was not, but he was a journalist. And he showed, again, the two parallel lines, those who did not care that much about the society or the war, lived their own leisure life, if you want, and those who fought the war and showed their poor life, simple life. And in both these movies, he showed a journalist. He tried as much as possible not to say exactly who he was, but somebody who was just defeating or decreasing the spiritual morale of the Egyptian people towards the war.
Yes.
He didn't want to somebody who say that no, we are going to lose if we go into war. Many people asked him in his lifetime, hey, who did you mean by that? And he said, no, I'm not going to say who it was, but by any analysis, it could have been Hakel, the editor-in-chief of Al-Ahram at that point, who basically was accused many times that, hey, you are demoralizing the people, you are giving negative energy. He always denied that, and eventually could, if you want to see the good part of it, that this was the positive, or sorry, this is part of the plan.
Yes.
That, hey, we will not fight you, Israel. We are too tired. We are too weak. We are too that, and then all of a sudden a surprise happens and the war occurs. So Yusuf Sabai wanted to put that person on the spot. And he showed it once played by Mahmoud Morsi and once played by Ahmad Mazhar in both movies. And he was, when a good anecdote about the 1978 movie Al-Amr Lahza, he was the Minister of Culture.
At that time?
Yes, before it. And all the time that he was Minister of Culture, he refused to put a hand or push towards produced my movie. Magda had, the producer and the star of that movie, had many problems in order to get the movie shown and produced. Once he was out of office, he just started helping her to give a hand, because once he is in office, he didn't want his name to be related to, oh, he's the Minister of Culture, he's going to produce his own movie. That's not dignified enough by him. And once he was out of office, he helped at that point. So that was among the anecdotes about that movie. And Magda, a great star. I love her in that movie a lot. And she showed the whole movie showed the backbone of the Egyptian society, which are the poor, not necessarily corrupt, not necessarily good, just Egyptian people with the good and bad.
Yes. Finally, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Osama Fatim, cinema critic. Thank you for being with us today and for this precious information. Thank you, sir.
You.
And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of Cairo Local Time. Thank you for watching.